Got it.
Everyone, this is Uranian Streams, and we have a special guest today that we're really excited about. We have crystal-tyme here. I'm going to let her introduce herself, what she does, and then we're going to ask her some questions, and then maybe go into her ascension guide. On her site, she has this ascension guide that she's written up, and I really enjoyed it. I purchased it maybe a month ago, and really great information, really great stuff. And Crystal, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you coming, and we do. And go ahead and introduce a little about yourself.
Well, I want to thank you guys, Molly and Muriel, for inviting me. It's exciting to have actually a conversation with other astrologers. I've actually never done this before. What I teach and what I try to help people with is sidereal astrology, which is really following the sky as it is in the moment. And I'm teaching alchemic astrology, which is really tying into astrotheology. It's tying into the mythology. I have a website called Time Will Tell Astrology, and you can contact me there, and I can do readings for you and help you understand your whole life path. I do Saturn returns. So it's not a typical Saturn return, how I guess the charts are pulling it, because I use the birth time. So it's a bit different. It's esoteric. So it's really that I do believe is the difference between typical astrology with the normal Saturn return. And the sidereal is really fascinating, right? Because it's really following the sky. So it totally shifts. Some people get totally shifted out of the sign into a different sign. So it's a bit of a shock for people when you associate with one sign and all of a sudden you're being told you're not that sign, but it's exciting at the same time, right? So anyhow, that's what I do. It's just a passion that I came to. I've always been fascinated with the sky, and I just started looking at the sky and trying to understand what it all meant. And I've really come across it intuitively. I haven't been taught through a typical astrology system. So I'm doing it esoterically. I study esoteric astrology, which is hard to find those texts, but I've done a lot of digging, looked into Valens, and it's intense, and it's not something that's taught normally in normal astrology, I don't think, anyhow.
You're talking about Valens Vetius, right? The early stuff?
Yeah, because they're teaching you how to self-heal. That's the whole aspect of astrology. It's how to heal your body and how to understand. It's not just understand who you are as a person. It's it's really to understand where the planets are in your body, so you can understand what each chakra is trying to teach you. And therefore, when you have pains in your body or have health issues, it's usually that planet that's in there. And then Valens, actually, he breaks it down into degrees. In your actual sign, like there's different degrees, and I don't go into that too much with what I teach, because some of it's pretty not pleasant. But what I'm saying is that the whole base of what I'm trying to teach is to teach self-healing, because this is what astrology was used for, and also kind of it was predicting the future as well. But he was using sidereal.
Molly and I both do medical astrology as well, and then with the Vetus, with him, is there particular books? Is it the only books that are available that you're talking about?
Well, I found a link online. I can send it to you, and it's explaining the daemon and the fortune, and where your life lesson, how it could manifest really your health. What you need to look for. Is it going to be more mental health issues or physical health issues? It's all there, but this is ancient astrology, like really ancient, right? It's like what?
No, I know.
Second BC or something. It's like really, really old.
I have a friend in Bulgaria who his website is 100% astrology. Hopefully it's okay with me mentioning. And he does death charts. Yeah. Like he'll do them. And, it's pretty exorbitant cost, but he'll do them if people want them. And of course, we know that could be negated by modern medicine, or whatever's, what mass events could be occurring. Yeah. But yeah, I've had an eye on Vetus for a while. I'm getting into his stuff. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I just kind of skimmed over it. I figured out it's really hard to figure out how he did the daemon and the fortune. But I did do it, and I figured it out because well, my personal life, all my siblings have passed, and my husband. Okay, so I know it sounds crazy, but it was kind of a spiritual thing that I think I needed to experience, so that I would think about the other side more and understand it more and understand health more. And because I have their death times, I can go in and figure out what was it really what they'd experienced, because I knew my family members, right? Was it what they experienced? Was that really actual to their chart? And it is. Okay, so it's really fascinating. You know, not everybody has people's death times, right? And
right.
and a lot of times people die when I think it's when when Scorpio's in their 8th house. Yeah, this is known that you tend to leave then. And I know my husband did at the time that it's
You say when what do you mean when Scorpio is in the 8th house?
That's like the hour of the day, right? Because like, you know, the time of the day when you get Scorpio is in like would be in the 8th house, you know, because the constellations move during the day. So yeah, so a lot of times people will actually leave the planet when Scorpio's in the 8th house, because that's the death house, right? So it's transformation. You know? So it's really fascinating. You know, it's intense. You know, I don't go into it like that with my clients, but I'm just letting you know, because your astrologer is like that's where I became fascinated, was from understanding astrology is a healing tool. It's an understanding of what you came here to learn as a soul. So that's what alchemic astrology is trying to teach you. It's not trying to teach you like, you know, who's your twin flame and all this stuff. You know, it's not like, you know, and what your personality is. It's like, you know, I'm saying that I'm not trying to degrade that, but I'm just saying if there's a more intense background to astrology. It's very, very interesting. So
when you say you do the Saturn return, and are you saying if you do a reading for someone, even if they're past their Saturn return in preparation for the next perhaps, or wherever they are you still going to do the Saturn return part?
Yeah, I do the natal. I do the first Saturn return, and I do the second, and we do the 3 charts, and I do a consultation and go over all 3, because the first natal is only your first 29 years of your life. Your natal chart is only the first 29 years of your life. You don't stay in that. Yes, it teaches you your lesson for sure. It has importance, because you're supposed to learn what that chart is saying. The first Saturn return is how you're going to accomplish that. So, you know, if you need to go through some, you know, say you have Saturn in your relationship house, you're going to probably go through a divorce in your first Saturn return or whatever, you know. So that shows that. And then the last one is when you're 59 years old around, right? And this is showing if you've accomplished it, if you've actually mastered it, if you've come to terms with what your lesson was. So it's really cool, because it doesn't lie. It tells you, and you go through the whole thing, and you're like, you know how your personality changes on your Saturn returns? Like you totally like turn into a different person. It's because you totally go into a different wheel, right? It's like your whole wheel changes. And so, you know, even where your sun is, it doesn't go in the same spot, right? It's only Saturn stays in the same constellation. So yeah, it's interesting. It's fascinating, but it's a map. And if we had this map when we were born, we wouldn't question ourselves, you know, with what we're experiencing. We wouldn't go, why is that happening to me? And that's not happening to my best friend. And, you know, you understand that you came in with a specific path and a specific lesson that you chose for yourself. I don't think it was put on you. I think you chose it so that you could become a more awakened soul, right? That's the whole purpose of it, I think. But if everybody had that when they were young, we would be a lot more healthy, literally, and not need pharmaceuticals and all this, right?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So it's astrology teaches you how to be free.
Oh yeah. What's your sun sign, Crystal?
I'm Cancer.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm feeling in the water. I could sense the water. I was gonna maybe guess Scorpio, but
I wanted to guess Scorpio too, but from her tone, I was like, no, it's not that.
Well, it's funny because Scorpio's in my first house.
Ah, that's what we're picking up on.
Yeah. And it was so weird. My late husband, exactly the same chart. Exactly like our ascending sign, exactly the same. And he was born 2 years, earlier on a different day. And it's just so weird, like I'm just like, I really felt like we came in here together to experience this kind of him letting go of the material world and me watching it and, having to go through all that. And I think it was like we decided to do it together because we had Chiron in the same house, in the family house, the wound. And so does my daughter. She has it in the wound, in the family house. So we all experience the wound of the family. So it's like, it's cool, you start to see that it's really, really accurate. Yes.
Were you guys the same degree or just close?
Yeah, we're same degree. Yeah.
That's yeah.
Yeah. That's weird. Yeah, and because he was 2 years different, all the slow moving planets were in the same houses. So it was almost identical,
Oh, I see. I get it. Even though it was 2 years off, it was still other planets were doing their thing back and forth, but slowly. So they
So the only ones that were different were the Sun and Mercury and Venus, I think, and then Saturn was in a little bit different house or something, but like everything else was the same. I'm just like, what? Like, how is that even possible? Wow. How is that even possible? Like, we're born at like a different hour of the day. Like, it's like,
wow.
That just like made me go, okay, there's something to this. That's just too bizarre, so yeah, really weird. So yeah, astrology is fascinating.
That must have been nice to be able to experience or have like camaraderie maybe with some transits.
Yeah, well, we were really the same. We were, it was a weird thing. We knew each other, but we were both in relationships. We met each other, we moved in 3 weeks. And then we were older, and so we tried to catch up on our lives. And then he all of a sudden he got melanoma and he died. And it was like we just had a child. It was a very bizarre thing, but it was like we knew each other, like we were like so the same. Like it's not normal to do that in a relationship, but I think now I understand it's because our charts were exactly the same. So it was just like we had just found our, the other half of us, or whatever, the mirror of us, so of each other. So I think that can't be a coincidence, right? It's like, no. So it's really fascinating, but some people you really sink in with because, especially if you both have Scorpio in the first house, you're very like, not of this world in a way, right? You don't see the world like everybody else does.
Right.
Scorpio in the first house, you see it from a more esoteric point of view. And
you're talking about the sidereal chart, right? Which is going to be a little
different
than the
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was that's when I really understood that I was like onto something like that was really accurate. Like I really feel that's to do. And all the people, every single person I've done a reading for, nobody has said it's not accurate. Not anybody. And so, that is like, weird. Like I can say to them, oh, like you've had this in your life, eh? You got a secret in your, like you got a secret in your house, like there's been a secret there. Oh yeah, or like they just know it's because it's right there. It can't lie, I don't think, because it's like it's relating to the sky, it's really, it's I think they tried to disconnect us from that. So
you talked about that in the other interview on your channel. And I'm just going to mention before I forget. So my friend in Bulgaria, he's done also some excavation and research with Vedas. I'm going to reread his chart, his site and his information on there. And if it's relevant, I'll send it to you.
Okay, great. Yeah.
He's done some deep studies in the Vedas. Yeah.
Well, I just printed it all off. Look at this. I'll send you the link. Like, look how thick it is.
I'll be
Okay,
good. I'll be
this is
printing that out.
double-sided. Okay, I haven't gone through it all and understood it all. You know, I'm just kind of going through it. So this is like my life work to try to understand it.
I know it's hard to understand this stuff. I've
Well,
tried.
yeah, because they don't make it easy to understand, right? They want you to kind of like have to do the inner work for it. But maybe the three of us, we could figure it all out.
All right, that's it.
Get a brain going here, because yeah, I'm just kind of like, it's so intense, you know, like you could spend hours trying to understand this stuff, and maybe it's not all 100% accurate what he was saying, because there's other astrologers that have tried to decode it and they go, I don't get what he's saying there, you know, why is he saying that? And
there's a
like,
lot, right?
Yeah, he divides every single constellation into I think it's 5 or 6 different, you know, he has the Saturn part of each, you know, each planet inside each constellation. So it's done by degrees. So why, you know, and then, you know, you don't want, I don't like to tell people, because some of the degrees are, you're not going to have you're going to die young and stuff, you know. Right. So you don't want, I don't want to do a reading with somebody and go, hey, guess what? You know, this is esoteric, and if you want to know the information, you can find it, but I'm not going to start to, you know, projecting those things onto people.
No, there's a lot of qualms about that, right? I mean, even doing death charts is something me and Molly have talked about, and you know what we feel about that. It's like it's hard to navigate, even begin to navigate that moral ground.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with that, because I just want to know. Just want to help people understand, you know, where everything is in their bodies. Like I just see, because the charts, right? Like your first house is where your head is. Now in the esoteric astrology, Aries is always the crown chakra. Now there are people out there who say Aquarius is the crown chakra, right? They have your body going the other way. Everybody agrees that Pisces is the feet, right? It's your soul, okay? Right. So some people will go, okay, no, Aquarius is the crown. Other people will go, no, Aries is the crown. But when you go in the esoteric texts and you read the old books, they always have Aries as the crown.
Yeah,
so
yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
You know, yeah. But I think with the Kabbalah tree, because the astrology decodes the Kabbalah tree.
Right.
But when you do it that way, Aquarius is at top.
Oh.
Uranus, okay? So I think that's where it's coming from. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's where it comes from. But that's, I think, more to do with the fixed cross that we live on. I'm convinced that we live on the fixed cross because it's ruled by Leo, male dominant, and very sexual Scorpio, right? Which is the 2 pillars, right? On the fixed cross, you have Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio, and Leo. So but the pillars are Leo and Scorpio. So very sexual. I enjoy life, and very male dominant. This is what we've been living. It's not intuitive. It's all kind of left brain, you know, and they keep showing us really sexual stuff on the, you know, through the videos and everything. That's so true. I'm convinced that this fixed cross is collapsing. And that is where the Kabbalah tree comes in, because you have to be the Phoenix, Aquarius, getting out of the fixed cross. You have to fly out as it's crumbling, as the fixed cross is burning and turning to ash. You have to be able to fly out. So you want to be in Aquarius to get out of the fixed cross. And then I think the whole kind of AI, the group think, you know, service to others at detriment to self, can be mutable cross. That's the negative side of it, right? And then the positive, well, the other side is cardinal cross, which has all the equatorial, you know, the equinoxes and the solstices, which is which is what kind of relating to nature, and that's ruled by the moon. That's Aries, the crown chakra, Mars, and the moon ruling that cross. So that is really divine feminine. It's, you know, the keys to getting out, which is, you know, has Capricorn, which holds the key. He's the god of the golden age, and he's the guy that holds the key to get you out of here. You know, so that's all on that cross. So if you want to get off the fixed cross, become the phoenix, get to the cardinal cross, get to the key. If you're not interested, you're going to go mutable. You're going to go mutable. You're just going to be service to the group and do what everybody else says. And, you know, kind of, and I don't like, well, esoterically, the mutable is ruled by Jupiter, Mercury, Mercury. There's no Venus, so there's no heart, there's no keys. There's no Saturn. There's no Saturn on the mutable cross. So you don't get to the golden age and you don't have the heart to get you there. You know, you're just totally bipolar. Jupiter, Mercury, Mercury. So it's really that, you know, it's like these three kind of groups, but the middle group is it's collapsing. It's you can see it collapsing. You know, it's basically they're just pulling you into mutable. So, you know.
I love what you say about the chart being like a tool for healing, like a map for healing. That's always how I've related to it, because with astrology, as you probably know, it can sometimes get so intellectual or heady or very psychological, personality based. And I'm just curious to get a general sense of your process. Like what, like in your perspective, what does the chart reveal about someone's healing or what they need? Like, in other words, what do you kind of first look for when you are working with a client and you have their chart?
Well, yeah, well, I take the natal and we just go what the life lesson is, but you know, you want to look at all the aspect lines and the opposition lines, because that's usually what they're having the most trouble balancing, right? Like the sextile lines are just like complementing, so it's not too much of a difficult thing to do with that, but you want to see where those strong opposition lines are and then understand where they are in the body. That I always take astrology to understand where it is in the body, right? So if your head is in your first house and your body is wrapped around this wheel, your feet's in the 12th house. Okay. So when you see an opposition, like say you have an opposition from, your breasts, like 4th house over to something, you know, like you're going to have more problems with your home life, your security, all this. And you're going to have to understand why there's this balance. Like sometimes you'll have, one thing is making you want to be totally service to others. And you have Uranus on the opposite telling you want freedom. So you're going to have a big struggle with this, serving somebody. And the service is Virgo, right? So it's always 6th house. And usually, you get stomach issues, you get or nerves, you have anxiety, right? So you start to see that it's all manifesting from your chart where you have these health issues. So I go over that and, and I don't say this is what you got. I just kind of go, that you could be having these, and then usually they go, yeah, I do, it's like, and I don't I don't project it onto them. I just go, is it possible that you could be having something like this, manifesting, especially with the 6th house, right? Because it rules health. And if you have Neptune there or, but as you have an opposition to your 6th house, you're going to usually have a health issue, and then say the opposition's over to the 12th house. Well, what rules the 12th house? In general, it's your feet, right? So then you need to be doing stuff like acupressure points on your feet, heal with your feet, because that's the healing tool to help that opposition. There's always like a relationship for the healing. It's supposed to be teaching you how to heal, right? It's not just telling you, oh, you're going to be sick, right? And,
exactly.
It's like there's a way of teaching you how to heal. So yeah, that's usually the opposition will tell you how to do the healing, or there's other aspects, like say you have communication problems, you need to use your voice. If you have Saturn in your 3rd house and you're having trouble speaking your truth, you need to speak your truth or start singing. Or start doing like A-E-I-O-U, like I'll go in my woods and I just chant, the vowels, because even though I don't sing well, I still chant those vowels because they're healing frequencies that have been, in a way hidden from us. It's all to do with sound, And then I know there's a lady online that does, this is really cool. Do you know that your voice matches your chart?
Yeah, one of my friends is she does the voice frequency analysis, and I've had readings with her where she'll do the recording, find the notes that drop out of your voice, and then connect that with a certain planet in your chart. And I was like blown away by that.
Oh yeah, that is crazy. So there's this lady online that she's a singer and musician, and but she does it with the friggin' she does it with the Aries not in the first house. Like she doesn't put the Aries in the crown sign. So she's done all this great stuff, and then she goes, yeah, but it's Aquarius and is the crown chakra. And I'm like, no, don't tell them that, because now she's like, she rebalances it to be wrong, you know, like so there's certain things that you got to really know, like Aries in the first house is because it's your crown, and this is important to understand through your healing. So anyhow, but yeah, like I'm just blown away by that. Like, yeah, I'd love to, if your friend could do that, because it's like if you have a chart that's really loaded with planets all on one side.
My chart.
Oh, do you? Oh no. Then the sound is really like off kilt, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of want to have everything spread around perfectly. But you know, I guess if you did she tell you that if you had this one frequency missing, that's the one you need to say all the time?
Yeah. And it makes sense. Like you said, it's like having a song that's just bamming on one note for like,
yeah.
So you need to bring in the frequency. But yeah, there was obviously a frequency that was like dropped out the most consistently. And it's so amazing because to me, then you actually have, it's like you have something to work with. You're like, okay, let me bring this note in. And it was funny because the note missing from my voice what happened to be the one sound bowl that I have was that note, C note. So
you were attracted to that, right?
I was.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's like we know how to self-heal without knowing. Like you know, but you don't know, but you know. It's like I always like get a kick out of it, you know. It's like, but what I tie to it, and I haven't spoken about this on my channel yet because I'm saving it for the school, but it's all tied to the 9 muses. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the 9 muses are the ones that are teaching you how to heal, and the sirens are not the good ones to follow. You don't want to follow the sound of the sirens. They take you to your, darkest place, and it's not good. So you want to follow the 9 muses, that is basically about poetry, singing, dancing. And so all those characters, and they have names. I don't remember them all off. I know Nemosin is the mother, but she's, Nemosin is the river that you keep your memory with. So when you upgrade with Ascension, you have your full memory. So this is why the muses are so important, because they're trying to teach you how to remember the game, right? So, and it's all to do with joy and staying in bliss, right? But these characters, all the 9 muses, follow the chart. So then you need to know, like, oh, I should be dancing more, I should be singing more, I should be doing this, or I should be writing poetry, or I should be, you start to see which notes are missing. It's not just the sound, but it's like the actual, thing that you should be doing to make yourself happy. So sometimes it's like dancing or moving. I know, I just recently learned that spinning is really good. So if you spin 33 times, it aligns your chakras, right? And you're supposed to do this counterclockwise. And I had mentioned it on my channel, and some people were like shocked, because there's one lady, I did a chart reading with her after. She goes, my heart dropped when you told me. She says, every house I buy, I have to have these special wood floors so I can spin. And only my mom knows about it. I don't tell anybody. I've been spinning my whole life, and it's just a thing I do. And I go, oh, wow. And I go, which way do you go? And she goes, clockwise. I'm like, okay, good to know, because I didn't know which way you're supposed to do it. But I really do. And if you watch children, when I mentioned it, people said, yeah, when you watch kids do it, they always go clockwise. So, that's something to pay attention to.
With the 9 muses, do they connect to the planets? Are they connecting to
asteroids? I think asteroids, right?
Yeah, well, they're asteroids, but yeah, they also connect to planets. I've decoded it all, and it's all to planets, and it's all to different notes. Like it's all to the different notes, and they all have like a mantra. right? So it's the planet, the mantra. So, and you, if you find, you can find these esoteric, you know, texts and like pictures where they have all the 9 muses in it. And, you know,
Wow.
it's, yeah, it's like a snake. Yeah.
So you're going to be teaching this at some
yeah,
point?
yeah. I've just got my website rebuilt, and I'm gonna start. I've got a couple of videos made already where I'm gonna start to upload them, and then you can just buy them. And I'm gonna go through, you know, basic astrology for people that don't know, like how to kind of memorize it and stuff. And then I'm gonna go into all this esoteric stuff, because I've also figured out how to decode the Kabbalah tree with astrology. It's a folding of the wheel. It's called the twofold key, but it has to do with astrology. So I'm like, oh my God. So I had all those charts made by somebody last year, did all the artwork, and, you know, I'm going to present them as well for anybody that takes my course. And it's a bit more, you know, it's more of a in-depth study of astrology, not just kind of you know, what my channel does right now. I just kind of decode what's happening in the world, and I kind of just, you know, keep it kind of mainstream, but it's just for people that want to go on a more in-depth journey into it. So, but yeah, I'm excited to share that, because it's stuff I did like a year or two ago, decoding, and I want to get, you know, I just have kept it because I just wanted to kind of encourage people to take the online school. Right? So,
Do you mind if I ask, obviously you're obviously not going to go into all the 9 muses now, but at least how to identify, like how you identify a person's main or primary muse? Is it like looking at the ruler of the chart, or is there a specific way you determine, like?
yeah, I was just using it for the voice, like trying to understand it through music, because the muses is all done through the sound and the music, right? It's all to do with singing and stuff. So I haven't really taken it, like that's stuff that once you know this stuff, you can go and use it into more depth understanding. I haven't even gotten really into it, because it's just like, it's kind of like I've created all these different things, like, and I want to eventually like present it so people can start to use it, you know, like, cause I you know, I'm just trying to kind of get all the pieces together right now. I haven't really like gotten down to like, okay, let's try to figure this part out now, but maybe eventually we can just do things like that on people's charts, you know, and just go, okay, let's do a 9 muses chart, you know, let's kind of figure this out, you know, or a sound chart, and let's just kind of figure this out. There's different things to do, you know, and but yeah, there's so much to learn. Like you need like 10 lifetimes.
You do.
I always tell people that for astrologers. Yeah.
I know, it's like crazy. It's like it never ends, and it's mind blowing. But
You mentioned 9 notes. So I did a couple of videos recently with a friend on her music channel, and we were talking about different types of tuning, right? Pythagoras, the 7-note scale. And we were getting really into that stuff because she knows musical theory really well.
yeah,
And so it's a whole nother like facet of finding those tones that resonate, you know, with our bodies. I forget what type of tuning it's called, but you can't tune modern music to it. You have to restructure the instruments, or tune a piano a certain way. Then you can get this other way of tuning.
Yes, exactly. Well, I bought the lyre, you know, like it's just like it was a pentatonic lyre, and that you can never make a note wrong, because it's when it's done with through the pentatonic, it's like 5 strings. Everything goes to 5, right? Because of Venus. It's all to do with Venus in the pentagram, and her being Taurus, that has to do with Earth, and you know, Venus ruling Taurus, and then it has to do with Earth. It's Earth and Venus, right? Is Taurus. So everything's about the toroidal. Taurus, the bull, is the toroidal. It's to do with sound. It's to do with your toroidal field around your body. And I had biotuning done. Have you ever had that done?
What did you say? Bio what?
Biofield tuning. I studied that.
Yeah. So they take a big giant tuning fork and stand 6 feet away from you. And, you know, it's kind of a coincidence that we're all told to stand 6 feet away from each other.
Right.
Yeah. So
we know.
So because they want everybody to be in their own tune, so that I can't help you and you can't help me, or you can't bring me down. Like, it's kind of like what's happening in the world is an alchemic test, right? So that you can hold your own frequency and see if you can stay in bliss. this is what this test is about, right? You can see through the illusion and not get caught up and get pulled into the drama of watching the fixed cross collapse. And I'm telling you, my heartstrings are pretty pulled this last couple of weeks, watching people get beaten and trampled. And, you know, I'm there, like, I'm ready to be like, you know, but I'm just like, no. It's all an illusion, you know, like I'm, you know, they're freezing people's bank accounts. It's all an illusion. And it's like, I'm trying to like this, but you can get pulled in, right? But the whole point is to keep your energy field in bliss. Now, if you go to a biotuner, they'll take this long tuning fork, they hit it with a puck, and they get a sound on the outside of your field. And they start, that's when you're born. 6 feet out is your birthday. So then they start coming towards you. And as they get closer, like say you were 10 or 11 and you had some trauma, that sound will go out of tune. When she gets like to that degree of that age. Okay. And then they try to get you to work through it. I had it done because I had all this trauma from all my family passing away. And as soon as I got to, you know, where my husband died, I just started bawling. Like just, you know, she hadn't even come near me. Like it was just the sound and releasing and hearing it and then trying to like work through it. And then all of a sudden the sound came in tune again. And then they take the sound and then they work it through all your chakras and then connect it through your, you know, your feet and up through your head so that you rebalance your tuning field. And when you have your sound out of whack, you get sick. You're more prone to, because your field has holes in it. It's not in tune. The sound isn't, you know, smooth all the way around you. So then you're more likely to get sick or things that happen to you. So it's this is what we are. We're frequencies. We're sound frequencies. So astrology is all tied to this because it's to do with the muses and the sound and all the notes and how you chart your voice, like you guys have just said, like your voice is your field, and you have to balance this. So this is why singing is so important. And, you know, even though I don't sing, like I said, I just go out and I chant because I'm trying to open my throat chakra and, you know, get those sounds through, you know.
Why in Vedic astrology, you know, mantra and chanting is such a integral part of that practice.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just fascinating because it's, you know, to know that your chart matches your voice, you're just like, what the heck?
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
And me and Molly have talked about this. Actually, Molly mentioned it initially. Me and her both play music. We both play guitar, and I played in bands since I was young. Yeah. And you know, we just love to. I sing as well, and you know, I'd love to. You know what I mean? There's something about it, something that's like coming forth when I do it. You know, something that's balancing in my body when I have that expression.
Yeah, it's great because my husband was a musician, professional musician, and my daughter sings. And so like I was always attracted to, I used to play piano, but I learned it classical, you know, which is the worst way to learn it, you know.
Oh, no.
You know, you don't learn, you just memorize, and it's
got it.
You know?
Right.
But the whole thing about the circle of fifths, it's always the fifth. Like I'm saying, it's always back to Venus because Venus is your third eye. She's Taurus. She's your lateral ventricles, but she's connected to your heart. And then Mercury is here with your arms, and that's the thymus that Plato says. That is your soul. And so there's this interchangeable thing between Mercury and Venus that has to happen. You have to like feel with your mind, and, you know, your heart has to think, you know. It's like you have to transmute these two things. It's the Venus and Mercury.
I was talking.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there. I was talking to a healer yesterday, and he was reminding me that when I speak, it's important to speak from the heart, but he was also talking about the energetic dynamic of here.
Yes.
So he was it was almost like he was, you know, creating that circle.
Yeah.
So
it's totally that, because that's, you know, so Taurus is your third eye. Yeah. So the silver gate in the sky is your third eye. And, you know, this is why they created the silver archway in St. Louis. That's the silver gate. Okay, and that's the cross. That's where the two great American eclipses are going across. That's where they, right? The one in 2017 and then the one in 2024. It crosses right there because that's your third eye. That's, you got to be like understanding what's going on, and you've got to think with your heart, right? So
Nice, nicely said.
yeah, it's really cool. It's cool the way they made that park. It's actually the whole uterus and everything of a woman. If you look at the park, and they have the silver gate there. Yeah, it's really fascinating. You know, it's nuts, you know. It's just all tied in. It's like the founding fathers knew this time, like they knew the future, and then they built everything for the future, because like that silver gate is on the same parallel line as Washington, which is on the same parallel line as the Golden Gate in San Francisco. And then if you go straight up from that, you get to the Lions Gate, which is in Vancouver. So they've created that right across North America. And the Lions Gate is the middle path, right? It's between Cancer, the manger of Christ, and Leo, which is the king. It's the Regulus, the crown. Right in between Cancer and Leo is called the Lions Gate in the sky. And then the Golden Gate is where, you know, Sagittarius is, where the, you know, the ecliptic and the Milky Way cross with the big golden bubble. That's the Golden Gate. So they've created all the sky like right across North America. You know, it's like, how amazing is that? You know, they did that for us. And I don't see it as, you know, satanic, or people think it's all satanic. I see it as like, yeah, they did it so that you could see that this is a story from the sky, and you need to be understanding yourself through astrology, through the sky, through, you know, so you kind of know what the whole story is. You know, it's just amazing.
By the way, I love that you say that. I mean, the reason why I reached out to you, because you're kind of exploring things through that view of neutralizing and balancing all this kind of nightmarish dichotomies and oscillations that people are presenting ad infinitum in fear.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, when you see clearly, when you're calm, you're not seeing the monsters or the devils or the angels. You're just on
No.
and you're going.
No, yeah, it's really that, and it's to kind of understand that we have to join in unity in everything, not just, it's like even like in the religions, to the astrology and to the Gnostics, and like nothing is separate, right? And everybody thinks, oh, I'm a Gnostic, or oh, I'm an astrologer, oh, I'm a Catholic, or I'm a this, I'm a that, or whatever. And it's like, no, it's all together. You have to know it all. You have to understand the biblical text. Like, I'm not saying I know everything, but I do know the book of Revelation. I understand the timeline. I knew there was a plague coming. I knew, you know, that there's a war coming. I knew that, you know, that the houses will be divided in your own home. You know, opinions will be divided. I knew that the ones that have the mark can go and buy and sell, and the ones that don't can't get into the stores. Like, I knew all this was coming. And it's just so fascinating to watch it all unfold, because it's to teach us to have empathy for everyone. But people aren't getting it, right? They're still in division. It's still like, oh, I'm a freedom fighter, and now you're not, and you know, it's still, we're still there. We're not getting it yet, you know. But Pluto, his return, you know, what are they saying? Tropical, it's today, right? The Pluto return, but you know,
okay, yeah.
Today's the Pluto return, but I don't believe it's really Pluto's return yet, because when I checked it out in the sky, Pluto doesn't return. Well, first of all, in Sidereal, if you use the wheel, he doesn't return until February 22nd in 2024. It's actually 2 years from now.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
And then, but even that doesn't align to the sky. So if you go to Stellarium and match it, it happens. Guess when it happens? This will blow your mind.
Well,
On the day of the Great American Eclipse.
What?
wow.
Yeah, it's April 8th. It's exactly. So I'm just like, no way. Because it's so weird, because when I started doing all this, I kept saying, we have to have that second eclipse to the story. It has to happen. It has to happen because it's so esoteric. It's going from, it's going through Phoenix, Arizona, which is, Ascension. It's going up through the Silver Gate. It's going right through Montreal, which is Mount Royal. It's Mount Zion, basically. And it's going all the way out to up to where the Freemasons had built one of their first temples in St. John's. And then it goes straight, the trajectory goes right over to where the Olympics are in 2024.
Wow.
Right where the Knights of Templar first church was ever built. Okay, it's right on the coast of Paris, the south of Paris or something. It's on the coast of France. Okay, so this is where the first, and it has a big white cross made into the stonework. Okay, outside in the pebble stone or whatever. And so the fact that they have Paris there, did you know the logo for the Paris Olympics is the Jupiter alchemic symbol?
Wow, no.
In 2024. So I like from the beginning of my channel, I was like, it's going to happen. Something's going to happen in 2024. This is when it's going to happen. This is when it's going to happen. But then I started thinking, no, the timeline, it's going too fast now. Like everything's moving too quickly along, right? Because how they kind of unrolled everything. And so I was like, oh no, it's got to happen sooner. And then I was like, well, maybe something's going to happen big, like on a blood moon. Because in the Bible, it says when the moon turns red, that's the day of the Lord. Okay, so then I started tracking all the blood moons. And so, we have a blood moon in May, and we also have one in November, right, this year. And then there isn't one next year in 2023. There isn't one in 2024 either. But there's one in 2025. And that one's like crazy esoteric because it's on Einstein's birthday, Pi Day. And the blood moon is happening at 322 on the Zabi Java star, Mario.
I know, you told me. I was like,
and that blood moon's happening there. And that's where Einstein created the speed of light theory for that star. So I'm just like, that's going to be a crazy blood moon. Now, I can't figure it out yet. Is that when we become free, or is that when we come back and free everybody? I don't know. Like, I'm just watching the timeline and kind of seeing, like, because I do think it all ties to the Bible, right? I do think this is all biblical.
What's the date on that 2025? Do you say 3/3?
Yeah, no, March 14th. It's Pi Day.
Got it.
Yeah, Pi Day, because that's infinity.
Hmm.
Everything's about infinity.
And then what's the relation to the Zabi Java star?
That's Einstein's birthday is Pi Day. And then he created the speed of light equation by using that star.
Wow.
So they all know the importance. And the reason that star is so important is if you put the equatorial grid on stellarium and you run it, it's all these lines going, like it's like, creating this round globe, right? But if you go, it joins to Polaris, right? The northern star. Okay. Now, if you go in the center of that, there's a cross. They only have 4 cardinal points. Okay. So it's one of the cardinal points goes to Zabi Java, where across the elliptic. Okay. So the elliptic is going like this. So one of the round globe is coming like this. And that one cardinal point is going right to Zabi Java. The other one goes to the tail of the whale, Citus, which is the right fish of Pisces, which I'm convinced that's the crown of Christ. I am convinced it is, because it's a pentagon right on the right fish. Okay. And there's 3, in esoteric, I found this out. There's called 3 guiding stars, and they go from Polaris down through Pegasus, and also through Cassiopeia, who's the queen of the harvest, like she's the harvest queen, she sits in the chair. And there's 3 guiding stars that bring you to that point on the equatorial grid. So that's one of the cardinal points. The other one comes from Polaris down between Taurus and Gemini to Orion's hammer. you know, so that's the hammer coming down, right? And then the other one is the Golden Gate, of course, the Golden Gate. Okay, so I'm just like, these are very esoteric placements in the sky because they're aligning to the, you know, the matrix of the the whole globe of the whole sky, right?
What happens when our individual charts like are key, like maybe someone born on Pi Day or the Zavi Java star, like what can you say about, like, you look at someone's chart, oh, they're born on Zavi Java, like what significance would you add in the reading to them?
Well, it just, because there's a story to that star and the importance. That's called the ascension star. Okay, like Virgo is like the Virgin Mary. She's very she's extremely esoteric. She has that they aligned the whole Washington DC triangle to that freaking constellation. Okay, the Washington Monument is the Spica star. Okay, which she holds the myrrh in her hand, right? This is all tying to Jesus because he got myrrh, right, when he was born. Okay, so she's the Virgin Mary, and so that you know, the whole thing about the tree of life is the Washington Monument is the tree of life, right? It's the tree of life, and people say, oh, it's a phallus symbol. Well, yeah, the phallus is the tree of life. Okay, it gives life. Okay, so if you want to see it that way, it's also tied to Sigillaria. Sigillaria was on Saturnalia, when they used to worship Saturnalia Day, which was on the winter solstice, all through Christmas. Sigillaria was December 23rd, and they used to make these waxed candles that look like an obelisk, like a candle. Basically, a candle is an obelisk, right? So they would light these, they would make these wax candles, and some of them were figurines, and then they would change roles with the kings and the queens would become the slaves, and the slaves got to become the kings and queens for that week. And it was a big giant party. Okay, now what is that representing? That's representing ascension. It's representing the souls that go to the golden age and they get upgraded in this game. You're no longer a pawn in the chessboard. You get upgraded to the kings and queens. Okay, and this is what this is all about. Okay, it's all about, you know, having love in your heart so much, and so much empathy for people that think differently than you, and you don't care if your home is taken from you and all your job and everything. You don't care. You just have empathy for everybody else, because the material world is not you. You are not corporeal reality. Okay, you're not a corpse. You're not a corpse in this realize reality. Okay, it's like realize that you're not a corpse. Okay, and that you're a spiritual being. And this is all tying into this enlightenment. And now Virgo represents that, because she's the woman in the constellation. She's the woman. She's even though Mercury rules her, she's Venus and Mercury. She's the hermaphrodite, right? So she's ruled by Mercury, but she's the woman. She's Aphrodite and she's Hermes. She's the hermaphrodite. You have to kind of, again, it's Mercury, your mind, and your heart. Again, it's your left and right brain, right? You have to get to theta. And so therefore you have to understand that Virgo has two paths. She has the tree, where you become part of the pond, the reflecting pond that's beside the obelisk in Washington. You become part of the water, or you ascend. Now, opposing Abhijava on the other side of her is all tied to Dionysus and wine and grapes. Okay, which is you're drinking the nectar. You're drinking the wine. You're no longer giving up yourself on the mutable cross to become the wine. Okay, so it all ties to the nectar of the gods. You know, I've discussed you in the Ascension Guide, you know what that is. Okay, so this is really, it's all to do with becoming ageless and immortal, right? And what does that mean? You get to keep your memory. You become the Nemosin. You go and bathe in the Nemosin River. You don't go in the river Leth. And this is all tied to the muses, because Nemosin is the mother of the muses. Okay, it's all tied. It's all there. You know, you just have to look at the history of the constellations and go understand the mythology to them.
And you've mentioned in other vids that all we have is stellarium and being able to see all of the constellations, because nowhere can we find it. I've spent so much time attempting to find some kind of map with all of them, you know, like in Time Bandits or something, right? Remember that movie in the 80s where they were looking for the map, right?
Okay, I know, I don't know that one. No, I don't know.
You know that, Molly?
Yeah.
That movie is so important. I watched it.
Oh, really? What's it called? Time Bandits?
Time Bandits. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're trying to figure out the time to get out of time, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because, yeah, it's fascinating.
It's a great film. It's a great, I mean, so esoteric, so, oh man, it's, the director did Brazil. It's a really eccentric director. I'm trying to remember his name right now. But, oh, it's so good. I've been meaning to buy it just so I could watch it, you know, what I mean, closely. And get some cool stuff.
You can't find the whole sky because it's a storybook and they don't want you to sit there and stare at it. First of all, you'll become empowered, you know, because you start to see that they're players in a story. And like Venus is the woman in the planets, but there's the woman in the zodiac is Virgo, and then the woman in the whole sky is also Cassiopeia, you know, so they're characters playing, like, just think of them as like a character, and they have different roles. Like they have more than one role. It's not like, oh, the woman is this. No, she's the woman playing this part, this part, this part, this part. Okay, so Cassiopeia is the harvest queen. She's coming to harvest her crop. Okay, so she's, you know, in that aspect, you can see two polarities to her, like everything else does. Only love and light. She's the harvest queen, and you see this in the Game of Thrones, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
She's a good woman, and then she turns into the bad woman, right? And they always show the polarity because everything's a polarity. There is no just good, and there is no just bad, right? Everything is half truths. That's the Hermetic principle.
I was just mentioning that in a reading because the cool thing about human design is everything is presented that way.
Oh, cool.
So when I read a gate and a line, I'll say you could do this or you could do that. It's just kind of where you're at with that frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna tend towards one or the other.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of confused initially because, well, are you describing me like this? No, I'm describing you in choice.
Yeah.
The frequency of choice.
Exactly. So you get to choose if you want to take the negative aspect of a planet. It's like Neptune, like friggin' Neptune, right? Now, this is what's happening right now, right? Because Neptune's run into Pisces, which is right where this equatorial degree comes at the tail of the whale, right? It's all ties into the whale story and, you know, Moby Dick, and it's all this, right? So this whole thing with Neptune being there, and then he's going in conjunction with Jupiter. They both rule Pisces. You know, this hasn't happened, I think it was over 163 years since they've conjunct, right? And they're conjuncting right where I'm telling you this crown of Christ is. Okay, so Neptune is either going to put people in kind of like dreaming of the new other realm, like the shamanically, like dreaming about how to heal and, you know, going and using that, or it's going to put a veil right across you and put you in a friggin' fog. You know, you don't know what Neptune's going to do for you, depending on where your emotional state is at. No.
Yeah, well said.
And the belief systems are going to be intense, right? Because they both rule Pisces, which is I believe. So do you believe in the other realm and that, or do you believe in this realm that's ruled by Zeus? Zeus rules this realm. He doesn't want people to become immortal, right? He wants you to be stuck here. He's a nice guy if you're here. Gives you luck.
So mythological. I'm just thinking Odysseus, you know what I mean? And you know, those writings, you know, because it's all there. The muses, the sirens, this whole story, it's all there.
Yes, it's all there. And what I found fascinating is that Aquarius is Ganymede. Ganymede is the little boy that brings the nectar of the god, the nectar to the gods. He's basically, it's kind of bad. What do they call them? Oh, there's a name for them. Oh, I've forgotten the name. I just did it in my last video. These little boy, there's a name for them. They're basically used as, prostitutes to Zeus. Okay. But that's the negative side of it. But they're bringing the nectar to the gods. So Aquarius is really Ganymede, who brings the nectar to the gods. And you notice that he's pouring it out. So he's bringing the nectar to humanity. Because what's Aquarius, right? He's freedom. He's Uranus,
Right.
He's freedom, right? So he's saying, right, yeah, we're pouring it on you guys now. We're not, he's coming from the heavens and pouring, he's like, screw you, I'm not giving it to the gods, I'm pouring it on humanity. So that's a little, and that's why you always have these, fountains with the little boy peeing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
It is.
I'm curious, speaking of like Aquarius and this age of Aquarius, like as you follow the sidereal, what are your thoughts on, if you kind of ascribe to this or not, the fact that we're in like a Kali Yuga, or we're in a dark period right now? Like, how does that play into ascension and descending?
Yeah, well, we're at the end of the Kali Yuga. So at the end of the Kali Yuga, everything resets, right? And now it's not just the system resetting, the planet resets. The planet sheds a skin. Okay, now this again ties into phosphorus, where urine, like phosphorus was discovered through urine, right? That was scientifically, that's how it was discovered. Now phosphorus in the planet is what keeps plants growing, right? So that's what brings life to the planet, is phosphorus, and it's in the soil. Now it's depleted right now, really bad in the soil. Like in my area, they actually spread human waste on the farmers' fields to bring the phosphorus level up. Okay, so this is all tying into urine and everything, right? So now the whole thing is, for the phosphorus, where the phosphorus really is, it's in the shell, the crust of the earth. So the planet, the way I see it, is that the planet has to erupt, rebirth itself. Okay, and it's gonna like bring the volcano ashes to the surface, which will bring the phosphorus up to the surface. So it's like the whole planet is going into the Hunger Games. Basically, we're going into this whole reset. Okay, and this is why I'm so passionate about teaching people to ascend. Okay, in the Bible, there's 3 groups. The first group doesn't have to experience that. They basically be put on Pluto's helm, his shield, and you become invisible. So and this ties into alchemy, because the last phase of alchemy, which is red and white, is called the rubedo. Also in music, it's called the rubeto. And this is jumping out of time. You don't play music in the normal time signature. You jump, you don't play with it with the metronome anymore. You make your own time signature. Okay, because you no longer stuck in time, linear time anymore. You are a divine being that can step in and out of dimensional states. And therefore that's why you're invisible. Okay, so that is the first people that get to have that experience. Now, if you do that experience, you go into the Nemosin River, you keep memory about this game for the rest of eternity. And you come back as kings and priests and queens. So you become the gamekeepers of this game again, the chessboard. Okay, so I'm assuming through all this knowledge that all the elite in this world that are rich and know how to become rich is because they know the game. They know that this is just a script, and they're just acting out roles. So they're not like necessarily evil, because right now I don't really have a lot of compassion for my prime minister, but at the same time, I know he's just playing a role.
Correct.
Okay, so it's very hard to accept that. It's like he's bringing the light by showing the darkness, because it's to help awaken, right? It's help the people that refuse to awaken. It has to get very, very dark because they don't want to acknowledge the darkness.
Yeah.
They don't, so there's that part to it. So anyhow, so then the planet resets itself. And I do think it kind of goes through like a radiation. Like, I don't know if you guys listen to Sat Yoga. He's a yogi on YouTube. And, I think I had come to this conclusion before.
You mean Sadhguru, right?
No, he's a guy called Sat Yoga. He has a specific
cool.
name. Okay, he's
Yeah, I don't know him.
channel. He's just a guy. He's a esoteric Gnostic guy, and he just sits there and he teaches people. But he sees this exactly how I see it. Exactly. He's like, this is totally reset. You have to let go. The world is, we're in the end of the Kali Yuga. Talks about the Kali Yuga, and he's like, this is it. Everything is going to, you have to let go of it all. Okay. And so by that, then you can ascend. Now there's going to be a group of people that are half awake, angry, think that the system, don't understand it's bigger than the system, and are going to fight, right? They're going to they're not going into the system. They're not going to follow. Now, there's an article on Forbes magazine called "You Will Own Nothing and Be Happy."
Yeah, we know that one well. Yeah.
Well, they explain that the people that go into the smart cities and own nothing and they're happy, they have no privacy and they're told what to do and everything, they're living like a blissful life. But they said in that article, there will be some people that live in the abandoned homes. Okay, so they're not joking. This is Forbes magazine. I'm not making this up.
They acknowledge that contrast of what, many of us have heard and know. I mean, Ra in Human Design was predicting a lot of this too. Yeah. The contrast of the citadels with those who lived outside the city. Yeah. The Pluto interregnum, which is what he bases it on, along with the transition of the sleeping Phoenix cross. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
so I do think it's all to do with reset. Now, if you go and just Google phosphorus levels on this planet, the scientists are saying 25 more years of phosphorus and there's no plant life left. So I'm like, how come they're not talking about that?
Yeah, right.
Why are they not talking about that right now? It's like, because they don't want, these are things that you're supposed to find out on your own, because if you get told it directly, first, you're going to reject it. And secondly, you're going to, maybe get so stressed out, you can't handle it. Right. So it's something you have to seek. Seek out, right? And astrology will eventually bring you there, because you start to see things expand. Like, you start to realize that this realm is not just about this realm. You start to see it as like as above, so below. And then you start to see it's all cycles. And then you understand the bigger cycle, and then you understand the Kali Yuga, and then you understand wow, we're just on a big wheel, and we just keep we just reloop,
and everything is moving in and outside of these time streams.
Yeah, so
they're not always appearing or able to see. They're not always visible.
Yeah, so as soon as you go into the esoteric arts, you start to see it's so much bigger than what you were told or taught, and then you start to realize that you can't stop this. You can't really control this. This is just a script, and you've just got to figure out where you are in the script. I'm just trying to figure out right now, should I liquefy my assets and then just be a free bird, or should I just stick it out and they might come and take my property? I'm not sure where I am in the script, because I don't know the exact, I'm always trying to figure out when is it going to happen, because I'm trying to understand where I should negotiate, go and move to, as I'm going through the script. Where am I going
to share something with you after we're off the podcast about that? Okay. I won't forget.
Okay, great.
I'm in the middle of it too, and I'll share it with you what I'm doing.
Yeah, because it's you're kind of I just want it to be over. I just want to get to the end,
Yeah, it's so stressful. One last question, Crystal.
Yeah.
So I want to say again, especially for the viewers and everyone, that Crystal's Ascension Guide is very well written. It's almost written to the point where it addresses body, spirit, and soul in like an order that almost manifests at the end with an understanding of your own moon cycle every month as our consciousness moves every month upwards, and it collects things here. And so I wanted to just address that near the end you have on it, you address something called two things, and it's the tetrahedral fire breath meditation and the Merkaba meditation.
Oh.
But you didn't include any links to this, so I was
Really?
curious. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's no good. I'll go back and check, but yeah,
Okay.
this is just stuff that I picked up and just gone, oh, somebody's gonna like this. Somebody, you know, because there's so many different practices that you can do to
Sure.
get yourself. Oh, that's the link that I do. Oh no, that's the link that I do. That's the only yoga I do. She has that inside her yoga. I'll give you the link to that. I'm surprised
Okay.
it didn't come up. But there's a yoga that I do. It's called a Kundalini yoga. And there's this one breath thing. Yeah, there's this breath of fire, it's called.
Okay.
Okay. And you basically, you know, the what's her name? The Hindu goddess that has her tongue hanging out.
Kali?
Yeah, Kali. Yeah. So Kali, that's where the Kali comes from, because you breathe like a dog with your tongue hanging out, and you breathe like hard like that, and then you bring your tongue back in and you keep breathing like that through your nose. Okay. And that will bring your Kundalini up and get you, you know, into this higher state. So the breath work, it's intense breath work. She's a really good yoga teacher. She's a Sikh. She's been practicing this for like, I don't know, 30 years. And she's like in her 60s. She looks like she's like in her early 40s. But it's because they're, you know, she's doing it. She doesn't say, like, she doesn't tell you the esoteric stuff to all this, but like I understand it, right? Because I understand astrology. So there's certain different practices. She talks about crossing your legs, like you need to cross, like she said, keep crossing, you have to cross. And it's all, what it's doing is there's exercises that you can do crossing, right? You put a hand on one knee like this.
Yeah, I know that one.
Like
Right.
this.
Right.
And you do an infinity loop, and you stare at one thing. Like, so you walk the infinity loop doing this, and you keep staring at the cross point of the infinity loop, like on a wall somewhere. And that will put your brain in theta. These are all to put the brain in theta, because when you're in theta, you can't be depressed. You can't be stressed. It's impossible. You don't need any, like all your, you know, chemical brain is working properly to keep you in this bliss state. And that's why the hemi-syncing, it's basically hemi-syncing. It's all done,
Right.
you know.
Right.
These are all practices to keep you in hemi-sync. But yeah, it's fascinating that they did that at the Monroe Institute. I found that text somewhere. It's like, it was on an old typewriter.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's why
very
it's
well
all
explained. Yeah.
Hmm?
It was
Back in
very
the
well
day.
written, very well explained. I got into the Matrix books in the mid 2000s, and the guy who wrote some of the Matrix books was one of Robert Monroe's highest students.
Oh.
And so he was an esoteric astrologer as well. Esoteric astrologers that he read. And so he was writing these books and sharing all this stuff with us. And that's how I got into hemisync, you know, and got a hold of some really nice stuff, and was able to get into focus level 10, which it talks about that. That's the example it gives. When you can get into that certain state where your consciousness is awake in a sleeping body, and you don't really know where your hands are or nothing. It's so weird.
Yeah. It's like you get all slowly, like, yeah, I do astro traveling. Like I do that, and I can leave my body and stuff. I did that since I was a kid. And you start to realize that your mind is so powerful, right? You can do so much. It's just bizarre. Like we have so much talent, and you know, they are making us feel like we have no power, you know. And we're really powerful beings.
Oh, yeah.
And our DNA is like, I probably, you know, in the whole galactic, you know, like we're probably the most special beings around, you know, but we've been kind of like taken over, making us believe that we're not.
Well, adversity, right? Adversity is strengthening us to the point where we can rediscover, right?
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, so I guess so the end of the Kali Yuga is, it's just to see if there's more souls that can make it through to upgrade on the chessboard. And that's really the whole thing. But the planet sheds its skin as well. And then we start a whole new race. But I do think, like, once we become interdimensional, our role is to come back and help free the other souls. But they won't have any memory of it. They won't have any. And the weirdest thing about it is I have a sister-in-law that just got diagnosed with transient amnesia, transient global amnesia.
What?
And she has been taking the
Yeah.
Jabberwocky, and they did a CT scan, can't figure out what it's from, and I googled it. It's a side effect to the jab. So, I think that is part of how they're going to lose the memory of what's going to happen, because it's going to be really, I think it's quite traumatic. I had memory of it. I do. Because when I was a young child, my mom took me to get some shoes, and the guy had a doctor's coat on because it was for kids, getting their feet, their shoes, like specialty was the pediatric shoes or whatever. And so then I go in the store. I was like 4 years old. I see the guy in the white coat. Don't know what a doctor is. Like, I don't know. Out of the friggin' place, freaking out. I'm really like, white coats and needles. I am always been, since a young child, had this fear. And I also had bladder problems as a young child. I was put in the hospital with bladder issues, and then I was freaking out. I didn't want to stay there. And then I had cystitis all my life. I had, I've always had, my bladder's always been talking to me. I think I peed the bed till I was 8 or 9 or something. It's really like, I was always like this. It was like something really traumatic happened to my bladder, and I don't know why. And then when I started to learn all this about phosphorus, and phosphorus activates DNA, and where they discovered phosphorus from, and the whole thing. This is the light bringer, right? It's Lucifer. It's Io. It's the other side of Venus. She's named Eros or Eros. It's phosphorus. That's what it means. Okay. So I'm just like, whoa. So my body has been speaking to me for my whole life. And I remember going to a holistic doctor, and he said, oh, all your acupressure points are perfect except your bladder.
Oh, no.
Is that in your chart? Like, can you see
good
that
question.
predisposition in your natal chart?
Yeah, well, I don't, I'd have to look and maybe look at all the water signs, but like the bladder would be Libra, right? It's to do with your kidneys.
Correct.
Balance, and to stay in balance and stay in Venus, and justice. It's to do with justice, and I'm a very justice person. I don't like injustice. I'm very passionate about human rights, and I've always been feeling like, people have been abused, especially the natives. And there's this woman that got trampled. She was a native, an elder, and and I've always felt like the native cultures, like that connected with the ley lines and worked with the nature, were the real way to live. Even though I'm a white person, or I don't know. It's like I have my bloodline goes back to the Welsh line. So that's all druidry, right? So all that knowledge, that connecting to Mother Earth and understanding how to use all those things has always been like really innate in me. And I always felt like the colonialism was unjust. It was like, it's not the right way to live on this planet, So I got this, maybe that's why. Maybe I'm always like, like my bladder is like, but now I'm fine, because guess what I do now, right? I do urine therapy.
Yeah, you've spoken about that.
Yeah, so it's healing myself, and it is all like, I feel great. So it's just it's crazy. It's a crazy journey. But your body talks to you. You have to listen to your body. It's trying to speak, and it's through astrology.
For sure. for sure. That's one of the key points for sure in
Yeah.
all ways. Because the body, I mean, in human design, we talk about like your in your authority, and it's always a part of the body, like either the sacral or your solar plexus
Yeah.
or your spleen. Like it gets
Yeah.
deep into the organs, and of course, the organs are just the planets moving and circling around.
Yeah.
But okay, thanks so much, Crystal. It was
Welcome.
amazing
Thank
having you on.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun, but we can keep sharing stuff, right? And
Yeah.
keep kind
Yeah,
of
for sure.
helping people.
Yeah, and I'll remind you to those links, and then I'll send you the Vetius link when I get that.
Okay.
Some
Yeah.
cool stuff on
Great.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
it was really nice. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And one more time, maybe just for people, maybe your website, we'll put it in the about.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll put the link. We'll
Yeah,
link
it's time will tell astrology.
Time with a Y.
Yeah, time with a Y, right? Exactly. Time will tell astrology. If you just Google alchemic astrology, I think it comes up.
Okay. Thank you so
So,
much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. It was really nice meeting you guys.
All right, Crystal, take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.